And some folks might be trickling in, but I'm going to go ahead and introduce you just so you can take it away because I want you to have as much time as we can get you. So, hello, everybody. We are here today with Dr. Sining Kong. She is an assistant professor of communication in Communications and Media Department. Her research interests are super timely because they are health communications, crisis communication, and digital media, which are all things that are on lots of our minds these days. Her hobbies are cooking and dancing, and she has been gracious enough to spend some time with us today, despite being a super busy person. Just yesterday, she gave a talk, a presentation with the Islander Cultural Alliance on celebrating Chinese culture and specifically her hometown, I just learned. And today we are so excited to hear her speak on what she's told me is her favorite book, which is Lao Tzu's Tao Te Ching. So without further ado, I pass it over to you, Dr. Kong.
Okay, thank you, Emily, and thank you everyone for coming, and good afternoon. And for this book, it's one of my favorites. And actually, the reason I'm going to talk about this book today is because during this pandemic, I have to say this book helped me to live a better life during this pandemic, and also helped me to cope with depression and how to have a better life. So that is why I want to share this book with you guys. And also, I know there's so many different sayings of this book, like, oh, it's really hard to understand and it's really abstract. Oh, yes, that is true. But that is not that super hard, because 1,000 people, they're going to have 1,000 interpretations of this book. And until so far, nobody can 100% confidently to say they understand this book very well. So we can have our own interpretation, as long as this interpretation can bring us make us life a little bit better and bring us more happiness. That is fine. So just don't get intimidated by this book. It is not that scared. That is the easy one to read. And it is not very thick. It's a really small book. I think Emily has the copies. Yes, it's a really thin book. And I think you can spend an afternoon to read the whole book. It is not hard. And okay, I'm going to start to introduce to you this book and my thoughts, my feelings of this book, and how this book helped me with my daily life, especially helped me to cope with some emotional difficulties during this COVID. Okay, so we can get started. So first of all, I want to have a really brief introduction what Tao Te Ching means, right? It sounds so unfamiliar, especially for English speakers. So for Tao, it actually means the way. And De, it means strength or the virtue. And Jing here, it means scripture. And this book was written in China roughly 2,500 years ago. So it's a long time ago. And scholars first discovered it. Actually, it was written on the bamboos. And they need to transcribe it to a book. And this book is probably the most influential Chinese book of all times. It embodies all the Chinese philosophies, and actually until nowadays, there are so many idioms, so many our mindsets are deriving from this book, Tao Te Ching. So for so many times, I have no idea where those thoughts come from. Then it turns out we can trace it back to this book. And this book is translated, I think, most just to compare to Bible. So it's been published a lot and been translated to so many different languages and has been read by so many different people from various countries. Very popular. And in total, it has 81 chapters. And also it has two parts. The Tao parts is from chapter 1 to chapter 37, and the parts is from 38 to chapter 81. Actually, a lot of people feel the way we can consider it as some the course of the nature or the way of the universe. It is really abstract, but for the De, it how the way reflects in the real life. Like for sometimes we have no idea how we achieve it. If we explain it through the philosophy of Tao Te Ching, it means you're following the course of the nature, the course of the things, you're following the flow. And how that reflected in your real life, you're successful. That is how it presents. So it is not that abstract actually, but the scripture is a little bit vague and abstract. Later, I'm going to share with you my version of interpretation. You are free to have different types of interpretation. I'm just sharing with you my thoughts. Okay. And after introduce the book, I'm going to introduce to you a little bit about who is Laozi. So I'm not sure if you can see it. There's 3 pictures I found. Laozi actually, there's not so many like people knows who he is. Not much is known about Laozi, at least nothing that is certain, because he is a kind of a mysterious person, a sage, and according to the legend, he has really big ears. So we can see in the different pictures, his ears are really big. But in China, there's a saying: if a person's ears are really big, that means that person is blessed. So, so in another way, he is a very lucky man. We can consider that way. And some even doubt whether he is the author of the Tao Te Ching. However, his name became legendary with this writing, which also happens to be his only work. There's a really funny story how he came up with this book. We can see this picture shows actually Laozi felt he wants to go to Tibet to look for some inner peace. And so he rode on a water buffalo and heading to the west. When he's heading to the city's gate, the soldier just noticed, wow, you're Laozi, you're so famous. And the soldier asked him to write down his thoughts so that the future generation will benefit from his thoughts. Then Laozi looked great, so he just wrote down some of his thoughts in the book Tao Te Ching. That is the small story, how he came up with this book. And there's the statues of Laozi in China. And this is the cartoon figure of Laozi. I love this one. It's so cute. And the other very famous or the sage in Chinese history is Confucius. That guy you're not unfamiliar with. He's super famous, but he also looked up Laozi. Once he had some conversation with Laozi. After those conversations, Confucius told his students that birds fly, fishes swim, animals run. Today, I have seen Laozi. He's like a dragon. In Chinese culture, dragon is a really great creature. It is not evil at all. It's great. So Laozi has a really great personality and knows so much things that impressed Confucius. So that is the short introduction of the book and the author, Laozi. Okay, now let's get started. So for the philosophy of this book, so overall, this Tao Te Ching is about Oriental or Chinese philosophy. And all of those kind of can be summed up with this phrase yin and yang. So you're not unfamiliar with this Tai Chi diagram. Actually, that resembles what is yin, what is yang. And for this white part, we can consider it as yin, and they are yang. This black part is the yin. So that reflects how Chinese philosophy we feel the good and the bad, the dark and the bright, they're always coming together. You cannot only have dark without having the light. You cannot only have the good things without the bad things. Because without the bad things, you have no idea whether this is the good things. We have that conclusion or learn some things through comparison, right? And for here, actually, yin and yang represents different things. We can see here, according to the Chinese philosophy, yin, it represents night, dark, rain, water, cold, winter, autumn. Odd numbers, the moon, north, west, right, tradition, valley, river, and even for our body part, it can be reflected from yin. Your kidney, your heart, your liver, your lungs, that's a yin. I have no idea why they're yin, but they're yin. And for yang, it shows like day, light, fire, heat, summer, spring. Right now we're yang, we're in the summer. And even numbers, the sun, the south, the east. And for your body part, it's the bladder, intestines, and your skin, they're yang. I have no idea why they're yang, but they're yang. And for Chinese traditional medicine, it says if you're not feeling very well, it might be because the yin and yang is not coordinated very well in your body. And when it comes to our daily life, if you're feeling depressed, because maybe your mood is not in that harmonious part of yin and yang. So everything can be reflected from that part, and the whole book also reflected this yin and yang, how the good and bad coexisted together, how we got like long and short, dark and bright. Okay, so that is the very interesting concept. Okay, now here we go. Let's get started. So starts from the chapter 1. 8 tells us what is Tao. So Lao Tzu wrote, the Tao that cannot be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The nameless is the beginning of heaven and earth. So what is Tao? If a Tao can be told, it is not the Tao, because that is about the universe. Until right now, even though we're having the Hubble telescope, we still cannot know the whole picture of the universe. We have no idea. We cannot tell it, right? That is the Tao, the path, the way. So it is really hard to define, but it can be understood as the way of the universe, how it goes. And also Tao refers to the natural way things are. So think about this way. Right now, at least we are, we know how to speak one language. If you're in the American, you know how to speak English. Like me, I'm born and raised in China, I know how to speak Chinese. But if you want me to describe how I learned Chinese as my mother tongue, I couldn't. It's so hard to explain to you how I learned Chinese, but I can explain to you how I learned English. Because when I learned English, I'm already grown up. I know it's so horrible, or it is a nightmare to reciting so many words. It's just so different from my native tongue. But if you ask a native English speaker how you learned English, they have no idea. It's just so naturally, they learned it, they can speak it. Like you ask me, so many people ask me, Chinese is so hard. I said, really? I don't feel that it's so hard. For me, it is fine. I feel that is the Tao, the way, the natural way things goes. You cannot interpret it, you cannot tell it, right? So let's consider it as the way how things flows naturally. Okay, so if we consider or think Tao in that way, it is not that hard to digest what it is. So that is Tao, is the way we understand the universe. And followed by Tao, actually in the whole book, there's a reflection of dialectics. Why it's a reflection of dialectics? Because from the chapter 2, Lao Tzu said, difficult and easy complement each other. Long and short contrast each other. High and low rest upon each other. Voice and sound harmonize each other. Front and back follow one another. So we can see they're just the two things, long and short, high and low, voice and sound. So when we're looking at one thing, don't ignore the other side of that thing. I'm going to explain that based on my own experience. I came to US in 2012, and my first stop is in Florida. It is so great, Florida. So here's a picture of Florida, the beach, the sun, and the year, like summer all the year round. It is so nice. But at the same time, I have my first experience of hurricane. I have never experienced hurricane in my hometown. My hometown is in the northeast of China. It's snowing almost all the year, so it's super cold. Then we can see the long and short contrast each other. When you're enjoying the sunshine in Florida, prepared for upcoming hurricane as well. There's not a thing always good. Also, there's not a thing always bad. Like when I was in my hometown, even though it is super cold, it's freezing about 6 to 8 months, I always complained, why it's so cold? But at the same time, we're having that splendid view of the winter, and we're having the coolest summer. In the summer, it is really cool, it is really comfortable. But in Florida, the humid and that super large cockroach and so many different things, the bugs, it kind of let me know, even though I want to enjoy sunshine, the beach, there's the other part on it. So while we're looking at things, when there's the good parts, always comes along with the negative parts. And also, it is not limited by how we're viewing things. It is also can be applied in our interpersonal relationship. The other day, one of my friends complained to me that her husband is really kind of, she told me her husband is so happy about the current life, like status quo. He didn't want to like work harder or think how to make more money, but her husband is such a really great guy, such a nice person. Then I told her, actually, if your husband is not that optimistic, if your husband doesn't have that great like kindness, if he's always looking forward to have more money, to make more money, he will never make you so happy. You love him because his personality, because he has a such optimistic personality, the mind, rather than he's always working, he's always thinking about money. So when you're complaining the disadvantage or the weakness of the person, actually we need to think about maybe that is why makes that person so attractive. Maybe that is why we love that person. So that dialectic thoughts always embedded in Tao Te Ching. And yes, the next part I want to introduce to you guys is what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Yes, that part also reflects in Tao Te Ching. I know these two cute pictures. I love those pictures. So that part is from chapter 41. It says the bright path seems dim. Going forward seems like retreat. The easy way seems hard. Great talents ripen late. Okay, what does that mean? So we always want to, for example, stay fit, keep healthy, and we want to meet our better version of the self in the future. And for a lot of people, we know the best way to lose weight is to exercise, maybe, and have a healthy diet. It sounds really easy, but the easiest way is the hardest way. The easy way seems hard. So many people knows we need to go to the gym, we need to start exercise, but it's really hard for us to like working out like every day or almost every week. And usually we know it is so hard to do it and the so struggling because the right way is the hardest way. Like, you know, it is so hard. It's the final. I really want to watch a movie or do other things, but that is not right. The right thing to do for the final is just to study, right? Even though it is hard and suffering. So let's just face it. The bright path seems dim. Even though that is the right way, you know it's going to bring you so many benefits. It looks so dreadful. And it's going to cost a lot if we're going to go to that right path. And sometimes going forward seems like retreat. It's like we're healing a wound. At the very beginning, it is really hard, but later it will be get better. And the next thing is great talents ripen late. I feel there's an exact English phrase for this, like a late bloomer. It's like the same thing. So just to take your time. We cannot achieve it within one day or 1 month. Right now, there are so many people, they're looking for some magic diet can help them to lose weight like within a month, but they never thought about, okay, what kind of diet I can have which can maintain health for the rest of my life. My goal is not only for the next month, like a wedding suits, or the next month, uh, such like dating, but it's just the whole life. So we really need to think about what is the right thing to do. And also for me, it's like during this pandemic, I feel I really want to visit my parents, my friends, but it is impossible. There's no flights. And the right thing for me to do is to stay healthy, stay optimistic at home, even though it is really hard at the very beginning, but I know I have to do that. So that is what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And okay, next thing I want to share with you is the blessing in disguise. Yes, this concept also reflected in Tao Te Ching. So in the chapter 59, Lao Tzu said, happiness is rooted in misery. Misery lurks beneath happiness. So I feel, yes, in English words, we're having that phrase of blessing in disguise. It's quite similar. So every time when we feel so excited, maybe we need to be cautious at the same time. So based on my own experience, I came to US in 2012 and started my master's degree in University of Florida. It is so excited. I watched the football and enjoy Florida sunshine and everything. That is so nice, happiness. It is rooted in misery. What is my misery? What is the unhappiness part in this process? My hometown, the homesick. I'm so far away from my parents, from my friends, and at the first time when I was in US, there's not so many people I know about. So it's just so lonely. So I definitely can feel that happiness is rooted in misery. But why misery lurks beneath happiness? Because that is also another story of myself. Because last year my mom fell off and she broke her arm. That is really a misery experience. However, after that experience, she started to pay more attention to her own health. So she started to exercise really regularly and having a really healthy diet. After that, actually, in addition to the arm fracture, she's more healthy. She's even healthier and she's even happier. So sometimes even that is just the misery, we can still see a silver line from that misery things. So it's not a totally bad thing. So I really love this part, like happiness is really in misery. Misery lurks beneath happiness. You will never know what's going to happen in the next. Just always have a really like positive mindset. Like this COVID, for so many people, they feel it's just the darkest time in their life. But actually, think about the other way. One of my friends, he started to learn violin during these quarantine times. So right now, he even can play some like music. He started from scratch. And for other people, this quarantine maybe is the best time they can spend the time with the family. So actually, we can find other like positive things even from the darkest time. And that is how Tao Te Ching helps me to kind of live through and have less suffering during this COVID pandemic. And next thing is the water. So during the whole book, Lao Tzu valued and admired the quality of the water. And in the chapter 8, he said, the highest good is like water. Water gives life to the 10,000 things and does not strive. It flows in places men reject, and so is like the Tao. It dwelling, be close to the land. In meditation, go deep in the heart. In dealing with others, be gentle and kind. So here, actually, Lao Tzu said, the kindest person is like the water, because water, like, doesn't matter, won't mind to go the lowest place. The water going to go the place like other things, they won't be there. And water always nourish people and help people, and always be gentle, be kind to people. So many people interpreted this chapter, this verse, like for the highest good for the people with highest virtue. They usually do the things other people won't or wouldn't love to do, like do the things it's really hard to achieve, like Gandhi or Mother Teresa. They're always helping people. And also for the water, they don't mind to do more work. I know in my class, sometimes I ask students to have a group project. Sometimes they're going to email me the other person or who they're not doing their own job, and they feel it is really unfair. So we're so used to evenly divided our task, when sometimes some people, they're not available to do their own, sometimes we're less likely or reluctant to cover that. But for some people who are having a highest virtue, maybe they feel, okay, I can just help you in that mindset. So that is just to let people to know, okay, be nice and sometimes do a little bit extra work. That is fine. Understanding other people, especially during these COVID things. There's so many like emergency or urgency or unexpected things happen. So having more compassion and understanding will be better. And the next part is about non-action or appetitless. Actually, non-action is the other thing reiterated a lot by Lao Tzu in his book. And in chapter 43, Lao Tzu said, the softest thing in the universe overcomes the hardest thing in the universe. Here, actually, he also mentioned the value of the soft thing or the value of the water. Water is really soft, but it can carve out the stones. And that without substance can enter where there is no room. Hence, know the value of non-action. Teaching without words and work without doing are understood by very few. So here Laozi said, sometimes you don't need to like order others to do something, for like even for parents and their children, the parents tend to use a lot of demanding words, or teacher and the students, to ask the students to do what, to ask the children to do whatever they need to do. But usually it has a boomerang effect. They're having a psychological reactance. Like this pandemic, at the very beginning, people are required to wear a mask. But see what happens. Nobody likes to wear a mask. Then later, when people understand the importance of wearing a mask, okay, gradually, they're wearing a mask. So teaching without words and work, but with what? With following people's nature. What is people's nature? They like to solve the problem, solve the puzzle, to learn something new. You just follow their nature. Like, I feel my parents, yes, they tend to lecture me sometimes when I was a kid, but for a lot of times, I feel my parents, they're doing a lot. I just imitate what they're doing. Like my dad, he exercised every day, even though he tries to force me to exercise when I was really young, but I just never listened to him. But right now, when I was kind of growing up, I working out a lot, exercise almost every day, because I just feel that is the right way to do, not only good for my body, but also good for my mental health. So that is just, you don't need to say a lot of things. You just do, then people or the students or the children, they're going to see, oh yes, that is really doing you benefits. We want to have the same thing. So the non-action, follow the course of the nature, and we don't need to say too much things, and don't use a lot of demanding words or the others. That is really doesn't work. So the soft thing wins or overcomes the hardest things in the universe. And next thing is about the empty yourself. That may be one of my favorite verse in the book. So Laozi actually here, it used some analogy that sturdy spokes share the wheel's hub. It is the center hole that makes it useful. Shape clay into a vessel, it is the space within that makes it useful. And cut doors and windows for a room, it is the holes which makes it useful. Therefore, benefit comes from what is there, but usefulness from what is not there. That sounds a little bit abstract, but later he also said the Tao is an empty vessel. It is used but never filled. And empty yourself of everything, like the mind becomes still. So what does that mean? Here I'm using this glass to illustrate what means to empty yourself. If we fill the glass with water, it is going to be a glass of water. But if you fill the glass with wine, it's going to be a glass of wine. How we are going to improve ourselves and to digest new knowledge, always empty ourselves. If you make yourselves too full, there's no room for us to get new knowledge, right? Just empty ourselves. In the other word, try to put aside those prior stereotype or prejudice and try to work on what we're going to learn in the next stage. Have open-minded. And also try to listen to other people's, not always talk. When we're always talking, we're full. There's no room for us to learn new knowledge, right? So I feel that is really important. And also at the same time, if you're have certain like or if you're the fan of Bruce Lee, he also mentioned be a water. Why be water? Water has no shape, no substance. So it's really versatile. And also our mind should be really versatile. we cannot be brainwashed by certain ideas. And also we cannot just define who we are by really limited experience and knowledge. For so many people, they said, oh, I will never make it. I can't do it. Actually, they have no idea whether they can make it or not unless they try it or experience it a little bit. Sometimes we just get limited by our own thoughts. We never kind of really take advantage of our real potential. So if you empty ourselves, we're going to improve a lot. And next part is about haste makes waste. So in this part, Lao Tzu said, he who stands on tiptoe is not steady. He who strives cannot maintain the peace, and he who makes a show is not enlightened. He who is self-righteous is not respected. He who boasts achieves nothing. He who brags will not endure. So that said, do not in a rush. It takes time to achieve something. If you stand on the tiptoe, it will not be steady. And strides cannot maintain the pace. You're going to feel really exhausted in a really short time. And for us, like in nowadays, climate change, water pollution, everything, because human nature, we are striving for achievement, to achieve something. But at the same time, we kind of ignore that collateral damage. If we're in a rush and didn't coordinate with the nature, with the other people, the damage is there and the achievement is not that great. So we need to pay the price. So slow down, follow the course, and don't let the haste make a waste. And also think about what you want to achieve, whether you want to achieve for the short term or the long term. Like in my course, I can tell for some students, their goal of the course is to pass the course, either an A or a B, that's their major goal. They won't pay attention to what's the content of the course. They don't want to kind of learn or improve. They just want to pass the course. That is for really short term. But for other students, their goal is just to learn something, to figure it out, to improve themselves. Maybe they have no idea what kind of grade they will achieve, whether it's A or B or C. But for those students, at the end of the semester, they usually can achieve A. Why? Because they focus on what they want to learn, what they want to improve. That is the nature way to study, to gain the knowledge. And in the end, by following that course, you're going to achieve what you want to achieve. They're not in a rush. But for other students, they just tell me, okay, for this course, I want to achieve B. Okay, B or A, that is not your goal. I just want to ask you what you want to learn, what you want to improve from this course. So don't in a rush, just okay, slow down and try to focus on what you want to improve. And the last part is still non-action, because non-action actually is so important in the whole book. So I also talked about more about this part. And this excerpt is from chapter 48. So Lao Tzu said, in the pursuit of learning every day, something is acquired. In the pursuit of Tao, every day something is dropped. Less and less is done until non-action is achieved. When nothing is done, nothing is left undone. The world is ruled by letting things take their course. It cannot be ruled by interfering. So here for this course, for this chapter, Lao Tzu also emphasized, do not pay a lot of attention to the results. just live in the present. Focus on what you're working right now. And don't worry about the future. For sometimes we're feeling so tired, so anxiety, and we're burning out because we pay more attention to the future, unhappen things, or we put more attention to what if we're not successful in the future, or what if I couldn't pass this course, what if I couldn't win that grant, win that award. Actually, it doesn't matter. That is determined by what you're going to do in the present. You just focus on the present, following that course, then later you're going to achieve what you're supposed to achieve. So these two pictures, I'm not sure whether you know this guy. He's Jeremy Lin, and he played for the NBA. He's Chinese American, and he's truly loved to play basketball. At the very beginning, he never thought he would play for NBA. He just enjoyed playing basketball. And when people ask him why you're having so much passion in playing basketball, he said, because I'm playing it for God. He's a Christian. So I just feel he's really enjoyed that sports and just live in the present, never worried about where playing basketball are going to lead him to. So he achieved so much. And for these three guys, these are the winners of 2019 Nobel Prize. Why they're the winners? Because they found out the nature of poverty. It's a really great discovery. But at the very beginning, their goal is not to win a Nobel Prize. These guys' goal is just to tackle poverty, to help more people. So focus on what you're supposed to do right now, focus on your task rather than think about what I want to achieve. Think about why you're working on it, because you love to help people, you enjoy playing basketball. Then in the end, they're going to lead you to a very great future, to the NBA, to Nobel Prize. So yes, that is my takeaway from Tao Te Ching. And yes, I think that is everything for today's book talk. So do you guys have any questions or concerns? Or Emily, do I need to stop sharing this screen?
You can go ahead and stop sharing if you like, just so folks can ask questions and see your face just
Yeah,
a little bigger. We can interact like actual humans. Um,
okay,
this was incredible. Thank you so much, Dr. Kong.
sure.
I I read this book back in when I was an undergraduate, and the professor had us read it several times during the class. I did not pick up on a lot of what you just talked about, so I really appreciate how well you've brought modern examples to make this digestible for us. Um,
Thanks.
does anyone have a question for Dr. Kong? You can unmute yourself and ask, or you're welcome to put a question in the chat if you'd like. Well, while we're waiting for maybe someone to type, I have questions.
Okay.
I'm wondering, Dr. Kong, when's the first time you read Tao Te Ching? You mentioned it's one of your favorite books. I'm having trouble imagining like an 8-year-old reading this. So when did it come into your life? And has what it means to you changed, or has how you interpret it changed at all?
Okay, that is a really great question. So the first time I read this book, definitely I'm not 8 years old, but I'm 19 years old. But to be honest, the first time I read the book, I have no idea what it talked about. That is my least favorite book at the very beginning. It's so hard to understand, even though it's too short, but I can understand nothing. At the very beginning, it's that Tao cannot be said, and if it can be said, it's not eternal Tao. What does that mean? I have no idea. But later, as I growing up, there's so many different things happened. like good and bad, usually they are at the same time, and how you interpret your personal, like interpersonal relationship. And especially I'm moving from China to US, have a quite different like experience. Then I started to realize, okay, for a lot of times, kind of good things and bad things come along together. And also, to my surprise, like I just said, there's also so many English idioms can be related to Tao Te Ching. I feel such a great coincidence. And also, I feel there's so many wisdom actually derived from Tao Te Ching. And when my perception of this book turned around, I think it's about this pandemic. During this pandemic, even though it's super dark for me at the very beginning, I started to read a lot. Now, when I reread this book, I feel, well, I have a totally different opinion of this book. Also, I can tie it back to my own experience. So that is my personal experience with the book.
Thank you so much. I can definitely see how sort of the way you covered it today, how that could have sort of like influenced living through a pandemic and, like you said, not being able to see your family and situations changing so greatly.
Yes.
Um, Amanda Marquez has asked, do you find yourself having to refer to this text often? And how does it continue to inspire you as an academic? How does it shape your life as an academic?
Wow, that's a great one. I really love this question. How, if I find myself having to refer to this text often, yes, very often. And how does it continue to inspire me as an academic? Like I just mentioned, non-action. So, for the academic life, I have to say it's full of rejection, full of disappointment, because for a lot of times you're working on some paper, and for a lot of times you feel that is the best one. I made a great contribution to the world. Then what's the result? Turns out rejection, rejection, rejection. Am I disappointed? Yes, very disappointed. But what am I going to do? Give it up? No way. Because I believe what I studied can make a difference. What I studied can benefit the whole world. So what I'm going to do, I'm tied back to Tao Te Ching. Never think about the results. Focus on the current. What is your goal in academic? To kind of help more people to discover a new area, and also to make a little bit breakthrough in certain area. If that is your goal, actually you are already achieved it. It doesn't matter whether your paper get accepted or not. You just follow your passion to improve it a lot, to keep working on it. Then in the end, you're going to achieve what you will achieve in the end. So that is how it helped me as a researcher. Thanks for the question.
That was a beautiful response. I got a private message from someone asking if there is a way for them to access the book. So I do just want to put a plug out there. I'm dropping a link in the chat right now to an ebook version of Tao Te Ching that is available through Bell Library. Um, if anyone wants to, you can check out that ebook version, or you're welcome to come into the library, check out a physical version. I actually have in front of me, you might have noticed I was flipping pages while you were speaking, Dr. Kong. I have a version that I checked out a few months ago, and
Right?
it's enormous, but that's because there are a bunch of different texts translated in this one
I
copy.
see.
Um, Dr. Kong, do you have a particular translation that you would recommend to English
Oh,
readers, speakers?
yes. Actually, I have one, and let me see. I'm going to type that. Oh, I'm sorry. I think there's something wrong with my laptop, so it's shaking.
Oh
Can you
no,
see?
I can't see anything shaking.
Oh,
You'll
that is fine because I can see it's shaking, but that is fine. If you see it is fine.
Yep, it looks fine here. I hope you don't get dizzy on your end.
That is fine. Mm, Yes, there's so many different translations of Tao Te Ching, but I feel the translation from this guy. Let me see if I can type his name. Okay.
Um, is it maybe something I could look up on my end and maybe, um, or if folks want to email you afterwards, you can send them the person you like if I'm
Yeah,
worried
I
about your.
just
Oh no, you
typed
just
it
put it right
away.
there.
Yeah,
Perfect. I was worried about your shaking screen.
yes,
Um,
it takes me a little bit longer.
awesome. Thank you so much for that.
Sure.
Um, do you think when something like this has been translated so many times and by so many people into so many different languages, um, do you think something is lost? Or do you think you read this text differently than I do in different versions? And I guess how do you think translation impacts what people get out of this book?
That is a very great question because the original Chinese version is already very abstract. So then I realized it comes up two types of translation. One is from this guy, Guy Fu Feng. He translated is almost just directly from that abstract Chinese. The good thing is it leaves English readers a lot of room to interpret it by themselves. But the other types of translation is kind of interpreted by the in translator. And but I feel even though that version is a little bit easier to digest for English readers, it kind of limits your own interpretation of the original work. So I feel for some starters who feels Tao Te Ching is so hard to digest, understand, you can go for that more exploited translation with that translator's viewpoints because it's really much easier to understand. But after you're getting used to what's this book about, you can go for this guy Fu Feng, very original verse, then you're going to interpret it by yourself. Like when I'm interpreting this, I basically interpret it by my own thoughts, by using my own personal experience. So I feel everyone they're going to interpret it a little bit differently because our experience is so different.
Thank you so much. While you were speaking, I did a quick search for that translation, and the library does have a physical copy of that one.
Oh,
So
nice.
if someone wants to swing by, I just put a little link in there in the chat that has the call number. So if anyone's interested, you can get the good version.
Nice.
Um, if there are any other questions, please absolutely put them in the chat. While we're waiting maybe for some to come through, I am gonna steal back the presenter ball and I'm going to share my screen um, because we are gonna spin to see who wins our raffle prizes today. We have, in case you came in late, we have 2 copies of Tao Te Ching. Again, they're small books, they're not intimidating. And they're really beautiful copies. We've got one here that has like fancy, I don't know if you can tell, it's got like fancy like gold edged pages. And this version has like some really beautiful photography in it. So we got nice stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and spin this spinny wheel thing. All right. Cassandra, is Cassandra still here? Let me put my participants thing. Um, Cassandra, I see you're still here. I am going to open up the chat and stick my email address in here. Because I don't want you to have to stick yours in there. If you would reach out to me and let me know how best to get a copy to you. And also, Cassandra, do you have a preference? You got first. So would you like the dark, larger book or the smaller golden book? I will set one of these aside for you. Email me how best to get a book to you. You can swing by the library. We can send it to you. And I will take the small one. All right. Your name's on it, Cassandra. I'm going to spin one more time and Julie, looks like you have won our second book. I'm gonna stop that. Oh, it plays noise in my headphones. So
Can I, that is awesome. I'm super excited, but can I decline?
You're welcome to decline.
We helped plan this presentation. I'm just so excited that Dr. Kong did it, so I'd rather let somebody else get the prize.
That's very generous of you, Julie. I will spin one more time then, and we will see. Right, Myra, it looks like you have won our second book. Is Myra still here? I can't see my participants list. Yay! Okay, great. Myra, also go ahead and email me, and I will get you this book in whatever way is most efficient. Thank you all for sticking around till we got to do the giveaways. Are there any other questions for Dr. Kong? I haven't seen any pop up in the chat yet. Oh, someone mentioned early on the Tao of Pooh. Have you read the Tao of Pooh, Dr. Kong? It's like Winnie the Pooh, the little bear. And it's a very cute book. And it's sort of how Pooh embodies sort of the nature and the like non-action of Tao. It's very cute.
That's great, but I've never read it, but I want to check it.
It's really lovely. But it honestly, I think Leah made a good point. It's a good introduction into this. And I think really, Dr. Kong, your sort of overview of like the main concepts that you can pick out from different like chapters and verses, I think that's for me, like I want to go back and reread it now with sort of your not guidelines, but with the concepts you pulled out. I think I'm going to get much more out of it after sort of hearing your perspective on it.
Great.
All right. I'm not seeing any other questions. And I know, Dr. Kong, you have something right after this because you're just crazy busy. So thank you so much for coming. Everyone who has attended, thank you so much
Thanks
for being with us and taking the time to celebrate an amazing piece of literature and one of our amazing faculty members.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Emily, for arranging this. I really enjoyed this book talk.
Oh, I'm so glad. Me too.
Thanks.